The Four Noble Truths of Buddhism. Number 1. There's a pattern of experience called suffering, which could also be called stress, or even distress, or worrying, or aversion, or simply fear, or trauma, or tension, or in the Sanskrit language, dukkha. So, number 2, the second noble truth, the experience of suffering is a naturally arising conditional effect. It's an effect of certain specific conditions. It's a symptom. Number 3, the third noble truth, suffering is transitory. It's impermanent. It comes and it goes. So in the absence of the particular conditions that produce suffering, the experience of suffering cannot endure. The experience of distress cannot endure in the absence of what's required to produce that pattern of experience. We could even say that pattern of behavior. So the fourth noble truth, number 4, the middle way of moderation recognizes the possibility of experiencing suffering, rather than avoiding the subject of suffering or trying to escape from the natural arising of suffering, which does not work anyway. Suffering happens for various people at various times. Suffering happens. So let suffering come and let it go. This might be thought of as the instruction that the Buddha was giving. This is the way of moderation, not naivety and a lack of awareness or ignorance of the reality of the experience of suffering, and not a aversion to aversion, not an attempt to escape from or deny the reality of suffering. This is the way of moderation, the middle way. This is the way of inclusiveness, wholeness, and holiness. Those are some words that could be used for it. This is the way of allowing, accepting, recognition, realization, being conscious, being aware, being awake. Now that's using the term awake in a figurative sense. You could even say being mature. So this could certainly be called the way of enlightenment, or the way of grace, or the way of the godly, or the way of God. That's all fine. Call it whatever. There are many ways of talking about it, and different word sequences can all reference the same thing. But different words will fit for different audiences. So be attentive to what fits, what works, to what is functional, what is practical, what is relevant, including as it could apply to alternatives for speaking, different, ways of saying something, depending on the situation, who's being spoken to, and so on, as well as different alternatives for economic activities. Be aware of what's relevant, what's functional, what works, what doesn't, what isn't naive and isn't paranoid either, in regard to things like economic activities, everyday life, career, job, whatever it may be. And even for things like one's emotional development, the emotional development of anyone, children, oneself, one's classroom, if one's a teacher, whatever, just being aware of emotional development and what works for that. We could even say happiness when we say emotional development. Happiness is part of that, right? And be aware of what works as in mental discernment. be aware of what's functional. Be aware of what fits. Be aware. One of my favorite sayings of the Buddha, translated into English, of course, is the Buddha was asked, what is the one thing that you would say as your instruction for people in regard to how to live their life well, or something like that. And the Buddha said, respond as the situation arises. Do what fits in that situation. There's no one thing to do. There's no one thing to avoid. Do what fits for that situation. Do what fits in that context. Do what fits. You could even say that bring the context or the focus of doing what works, doing what fits, doing what is functional, flowing with the situation. Doesn't have to be flowing with a particular way of interpreting the situation either. There's no specific the situation. Do what fits. So those are the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism as interpreted by me, with a couple extra comments. If you find this presentation to be something of a relief, then you can like it or share it with other people. When I say like it, I mean like click the like button or make a comment as you see fit, as the situation arises.